Alright, so let's go ahead and take apart the bottom grip here. And it looks like I might need a different screwdriver. Nope. Whenever I take apart something, I always want to be careful not to strip it. If it feels like it's going to strip, I got to get a different screwdriver before I try. It does say ICS on the end grip, which I do kind of like. Okay, so I got every tool I pretty much would need. I don't even think I'll need half of these. Okay, so there's one screw out. Switch to this one. Oh yeah, that's better. I don't remember which screws go to which. Take out the end plate. And there's brushes in here, that's for sure. Just means usage. Well, I have to say that you don't want to expose your motor, and that's what looks like here is starting to happen. Don't expose your motor wires, because see, this exposure right here hits this, and you get scratching on your end plate here. There's a scratch mark here where this is exposed. So this metal is now touching this metal. If somehow the other side gets exposed, you'll have a short in here, and that'll blow your fuse or any other electrical stuff you may have connected, maybe your LiPo. So what you want to do is definitely make sure that these are not exposed. These are metal, so when they scratch here, they become exposed to this, which can almost expose both sides. Has happened to me before, so you don't want to. That's why I noticed it right away. You don't want to leave any exposure on the connectors here. So go ahead and pull that up. Interesting is the way this comes in here. It's usually both to the back, but it reminds me of a SIG because the way the motor sits in here is different. There's no extra hole area in the back here. It's like they both are the same size. So that's pretty interesting to look at. It reminds me of my SIG because of that reason. It's just built like that. The wires come up this way. It's pretty interesting. It's usually they just come straight in the back. You get both of them, but I don't see how that's really made for that. This looks like maybe a Lonix motor. Go ahead and pull this out. Yeah, it looks like a Lonix motor. And there you go, it's an A2. The pinion is pretty messed up. It's already got some curvature, some spiraling. Maybe we can get a zoom up on that. So if you were to look at it this way very carefully, you would see that there's a spiral going around the gear, and that's resulting of two things. The way it's marked, it's getting in too close. Your bevel gear is not spaced properly. It might be a problem with the spacing in here. So if there is a problem with the spacing, it would require you to probably take the pinion off the old motor and put it in here. Maybe. We will find that out for sure. So that's one issue of probably why you're getting grinding noise here, is because this is pressed way too hard into the bevel gear. Set that aside. Let's go ahead and undo the pistol grip. I always look at the screws first to make sure that they aren't stripped, or if they are somewhat, then to take note of it. The reason I take note of it is so that I can tell the person, hey man, you know, if these strip, it's not my fault. It's, you can see looking at them that they're pretty stripped already, and I'll go ahead and try to replace them. And none of these screws look like that. They look like, you know, they're pretty new, is what they look like. Looking down the grip, the bevel gear's teeth look like they look spaced properly. What I mean by that is usually when I look down the pistol grip, you can barely see the bevel gear's teeth. So I don't think that there's going to be an issue on spacing, maybe just on shimming. However, there could be an issue, so we'll have to get a closer look. It's kind of hard to tell from a bird's eye view from above like that. It looks like the motor had touched the red wiring in here. Okay, these are a real pain to kind of get out. And what I might do different here is, if I rewire this just for testing purposes, I might move the way this comes in. This is a real pain to get out. Especially with my back hurting. Oh man. Just use my fingers to push it. Here's one. This one's really tilted. And there is two. Come on. There you go, two. Okay. Move this aside. Let's see if we can figure out how to get to the gearbox here. We will need to undo. Oh, that's interesting. Careful here because this looks like this could snap real easy. I'm going to take that out. That was a good thing I lifted that up real slow. Not like quick. Oh, what's this, you know? Brake. That's interesting that they hold this in place. Not sure for what reason yet. See, that could have easily snapped right there. It's not very reinforced. It's just their design to keep issues. So, good catch. Alright, so you pull this here, undo the screw here. And the gearbox is starting to wobble a little bit. Alright, set these parts aside. Okay, there it does look like there's a pin, but there is not. That's what I said it looks like. Alright, so this comes right out here. Once we get out of this part of the body, I can start to look at how maybe we can get out the other part. This looks like there's too much exposure here. This is exposed too much. I almost want to say that the person who put this together is, oh, there's a lot of grease there exposed to. There's a lot of grease coming out of this thing. These are very small bushings, like 6mm bushings. Yeah, those are very small. I'm just looking over everything here. It looks like this plate's been replaced. If you want to do anything here, this is what I suggest. I suggest not even using this right here, because the pressure in the gearbox, I mean, this is probably why he placed it over here, is to keep this shooting. But let's get realistic. This design doesn't work. It starts to push away, the resistance goes too high, and you're relying on these prongs to remain together. I would suggest getting rid of that completely. They look like they've already been pulled up to basically try to get away from having an issue where it won't shoot. So let's see if I can get this out. I think this right here will come out. So if I can get this out, at least I can get access to the gearbox. Can't see anything. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you can see now. It's just caught. And my back is starting to hurt. I'm probably going to pause this for a minute and then come back to it. But I'm basically going to pull that out and then slide this out and then look at the gearbox. Okay, I was able to shimmy out this thing, and then interesting about this body is on the right side, you know how there's supposed to be a plastic piece right here, and it's usually glued in, but they made this piece interesting. It just holds in there like this, goes up in there, and that's pretty interesting. That I think ICS kind of looked at a few of these issues. They gave a lot of space in here. There is a lot of space for the wiring, which is not bad. I don't know if this is going to fit through. I mean, it looks like it possibly could. It's a tight fit. But another interesting thing here is that I noticed at the back here, there's a screw right here, which is really weird for me because I'm not used to that. So you can see, like I was saying, they don't screw it here to the gearbox shell. They screw back here. And then at the same time, the screw right here. So that's pretty interesting. Go ahead and undo this real quick. Should come right out. Okay, now that I got to this point, I'm still... wow, look at how thick that is. That's freaking huge. That is gigantic. Kind of wish they'd do that with a lot of parts that need to be bigger, huh? Okay, so let's see if we can get through this a little bit here. Okay. Again, too much exposure right here on these wires, and the soldering to them doesn't look the greatest. This is actually plenty of room for me to work on the gearbox now, but still want to see if we can get this out. I don't know if we're going to be able to. This looks like a... I see it, what looks like to be a resistor or something. This has got to be a MOSFET. And from what I can tell, these wires are thicker, but this wire here is not, so he soldered to this. That's what it looks like. These might have been stock wires, maybe. Yeah, he soldered to them. I'm wondering if he soldered them like this, or if he got this out somehow, because the space in there seems really tight. I don't want to force, anything out without asking him, because you force something like that, you can break it. These MOSFETs sometimes aren't like the greatest durability wise. Trying to see if you can slide that out. It does not look slidable. Ouch, it's kind of sharp. Alright, so we'll set that aside and ask him, and in that way we'll just move these things apart. Move this here and take a look at the gearbox. Put this over here. Got some kind of button here. This looks like this is for the anti-rustle latch, my guess. Alright, so let's go ahead and take this apart. On the back here. So it's got some little washers. Now, one thing about this gearbox I can already tell you right here is this metal seems pretty cheap. To me, at least. Oh, that was undone already. Really loose screw right there for the front, and then this one right here. Kind of just looking at things and try to slowly open. All right. So this is not sure exactly what this is for yet, except for maybe the magazine. Release of the magazine, I'll figure that out pretty easily. Okay, so that goes to the side. But everything else should be exactly what I already know how to work on this. Yeah, a few interesting things. Ooh, some pinching in the wiring. This is the anti-reverse latch. I knew that. These gears, I swear to God, they look to me like as if they're Prometheus gears. They could be. They look like Aries gears at the same time. Nope, these are SHS 13-to-1 gears. And this is different than the other 13-to-1 that I worked on. I'm not sure which generation this is. It's crazy because they look so similar to an Aries and Prometheus to me, because I've had those before and they're very similar. So this one we don't have to worry about any screws coming undone. That's a good thing. That was in an old video I have somewhere. Oh, the bevel is pretty thick. That's a good thing. And it's got lines all the way up. Good thing. And I'm looking at the teeth. It's in great shape. You can see marking of like kind of it tried to bite it down. The pinion did, but the pinion on the Lonex is softer material, so that's why this didn't take any damage compared to the poor Lonex pinion did. And this looks like it was a spacer, like a shim for the anti-reverse latch. Huh, that's interesting. Why would you make an anti-reverse latch that needs to be shimmed too? And that's what it looks like it went to. I'm sure I'll have to check the video footage when I pulled that. So we definitely got a MOSFET going on here. This is traditional. Okay, so we've got nothing wrong with the gears on the inside. This is the shim that was used on the sector. There's a lot of shims on top of the sector. I'm just going to leave it what he has it right now and then check it and kind of look at everything. There's a lot of wet grease in here. Thing about that, you don't want slinging up into the your wiring and all your connection stuff here. What you've got it, this wet stuff, you just don't want it in there. Okay, there's no shims there, no shims there. They seem to be only on the bevel gear here. There's not very much ability to shim the bevel gear in here. So we know that these are not stock pieces, that the gears have been switched out. There's a MOSFET. There's some charring on the trolley. Let's go ahead and first thing I do when I get to this point is take out the wiring. And the reason for that is because I can shim it a lot easier without all the wires in the way. I'm about ready to sneeze, so I'm kind of trying to... Alright, let's pull off the trolley spring here. Set that aside, pull this out. It's kind of like stuck in there, real tight. Now, looking at this here. Trying to see if it's grease. Doesn't look like it. But this could still be usable with a MOSFET. Contacts look alright. This what he did is he soldered to this. He probably brought in another line. Okay. That's what it looks like. The soldering on this looks a little thick though. So I'm not going to expose this, but some of this stuff wires here are kind of exposed. You don't want to expose anything just because it can touch metal, and then that's creates short if it's getting both sides of the wires. Interesting. Looks like the screw clipped the gearbox here. On this side has that too. Like it was off dimensions where the screws are changed out. Interesting too is that the this is the safety right here. It's further away. That's pretty interesting. Another interesting thing is that the cutoff doesn't seem to be going all the way forward. I think that's part of this because this is not going all the way forward. Why it's not, I have to look a little closer. Because it's definitely not going all the way forward, at least 100% for me. It's not, so let's go ahead and undo this and look a little bit closer at this. I don't see anything too advanced. This is all stuff I've worked on before. God, my shoulder's starting to hurt. I was trying to pull up that spring so it doesn't go flying. I need this tool. This tool will catch it. Looks like it's caught on there. Like it's made that way. That's actually a pretty good thing. Bushings are a little bit loose, need to be glued back down in there. That's for sure. Another thing that makes really bad noise in the gearbox is when the bushings get undone, they kind of spin in place, and when that happens it gives a really nasty sound. I'm just going to undo this real quick. Where's that screwdriver right here? That's why I can't work with clutter. And since this is the only thing on the table right now, it looks really nice. It seems to be caught in here because of that metal piece that was put in. It's a tight fit. It should come out though. Alright. So not a bad idea to have this stuck on here. Actually doesn't stick on there. I thought it, no, maybe there's little markings it does. That's not a bad idea, so I won't go very much anywhere. So this looks like it was plated over, because it looks like there's a plate in there, but maybe it's not. No. However, you can see damage or something there. It's weird. So let's look at the contacts on that side. It looks like they may have been pressed up. Not real certain. So if you want to do an upgrade from this, I really suggest not even using this. What happens is something like a MRF MOSFET would be really nice. Just simply because I know people like to say that I'm a fanboy of that, but you only have 2 wires going to this thing, and at the same time there's extra space in the gearbox to move those 2 wires out somewhere else, and the only wires are going down to the bottom. Plus it neglects using this at all. Don't need to use that. Could, you know, remove this and connect them in here too. It's all going to depend on the resistance here. Of course, the heating up effect would have been because those two, the bevel and the pinion, are just too close together, and the amper just spiking, and then at the same time it's just the motor gets real hot fast. The whole line gets fast hot. So my procedure to this is I'm going to clean this all out. This is going to get cleaned. This is going to get cleaned. The gears are going to get cleaned. I'm going to reshim this. Possibly ask him what we want to do about this, and probably, oh man, some of that soldering is not too great, some of it. This may not necessarily need to be changed out, but it definitely needs the exposures to be removed here, there. Maybe something with this being removed, and this, you know, being connected here. But other than that, I'm going to say overall I don't see too many other things going on with this gun. I mean, there's not really much. There's not too much to be worried about of anything here. I don't see anything to be worried about. Let's go ahead and open this up. I usually like to work on one thing at a time, but you know, this video is kind of looking at stuff. So what we're going to do here is move everything aside. Great stretch for the back. I don't lose that screw. Okay. Set these things down together. Alright, let's keep everything organized. These screws are a little bit smaller at the top of these two here. That's probably one of the smoothest air nozzle tappet plate combination I've ever felt. There's no snag. Sometimes the gearbox has crap in the way and the spring snags, but this doesn't seem to have an issue at all. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the back first, just so we don't have a explosion. Don't want that. So. These are sure great to have. Makes it easy to get to do something quickly. Looks like I found the perfect size right away. Do the back here. Not even sure what. This looks like a block. The way this is put in here. Again, another very thick, big screw. Oh, about to sneeze. I think you take this apart like you're taking apart a gearbox. Oh, freaking sneeze. They don't seem to move forward for me. I think that's just to hold it in place. So go ahead and take this apart. Some of these screws are coming undone a little too easily. There needs to be some type of little bit of thread locking in them. There is some kind of blue, it looks like. Blue tape, but you know, just moving of this. I'll make sure I'm on camera too. This is I'm out of time. Not a great thing. That was kind of my fault, not paying attention. So if this part doesn't get filmed, sorry about that. Yeah, the screw's really hard to move. we go. Get a look inside. A lot of grease there. It's like water. Alright, this spring guide is really loose. It's kind of cheap. I don't like these types of spring guides. You need a full steel one like a garter. Maybe this is an M130. Maybe. Go ahead and pull this off here. And it looks like a Swiss cheese. It's actually not bad looking for a nice job. Non-ported piston head. Ugh. It's got some weight inside. It doesn't look like a bad piston, it looks great. The non-ported piston head though, that's kind of something you'd want to upgrade. Here's the ports. They go a little weird for me, I'm not used to that. The tappet plate's kind of fat. It's kind of weird. It's pretty close to a similar one though. This has maybe no O-ring in it. And just kind of there's all kinds of air loss right there, guaranteed. Let's see if we can get this out. It's like glued in. My hands are all greasy too at the same time, so that's a very tight fit. It looks like there is some kind of padding here. Maybe it's sorbethane, but it's kind of strange to me. It's all rounded out. Maybe this is stock, and then this is brass. So we'll definitely ask some questions. Angle engagement will have to be checked too. On this, there is a second tooth removal, but that's it. There is some marking on the third tooth. It could be from usage or hitting. I don't know. I have to check. But this is extremely tight fit. That's a good way to have a really good air seal, and it doesn't have too much drag. So I mean that's pretty good. Yeah, that's a tight fit. That's a good thing for ICS right there. But the air nozzle doesn't look like it has an O-ring. It definitely needs one. That's where your air is getting lost. So this is loose. For me, it's definitely loose. I'm not used to that. You know, these with the back plate right here, they need to be epoxied or glued in. I don't know if this is thread locked. Doesn't look like you put a screw out there. Not sure how you get this off. Maybe untwist it. Let's look at the O-ring. O-ring looks fine. There's just a very, very, very tiny hole in the middle there. And this is on there pretty tightly. So I'll definitely ask some questions because I don't want to break anything just by hand. Pull that undone or something. Alright, so there's a disassembly, looked it over. Barrel kind of stuff I'll look over later. I don't want to do that with all this grease on my hands. So there'll be the next video for that.